welcome to another episode of A Lost Cause. I'm Shawna.
Oh, I'm Annie.
And today we are talking about Michael Dawson and his son Walt. So, hard to say, I don't know. Maybe there's a big fan base out there for Michael. Not our favorite character, I guess we'll say that just off the top, but we're going to talk about him. So, Michael is one of the survivors of the Oceanic 815 flight.
So is Walt.
And so is Walt. But I kind of just wanted a little bit of a backstory on, like, how does Michael end up, first of all, on that plane, and then on the island?
So, let's flash forward, how old's Walt? 10? 10 years. And, Michael is, I think, living with his girlfriend, and she's pregnant. She's going to have this baby, and Michael is so excited to be a dad. And we can already kind of see that it's a little bit, it kind of seems like a weird fit.
It does seem like maybe a bit of a mismatch. Like, she's very successful. I think
she's a lawyer.
Lawyers.
And then he's an artist, not really a successful one either.
Yeah.
And then he drops his art to go work in construction. Anyways, all of a sudden, Walt is born. And then she just wants to leave him.
Yeah.
And then Michael finds out that she's with another man who is actually her employer.
Also a lawyer.
So there could have been an affair already, but we're not really sure. So.
Well, it seemed like, I can't actually remember her name, but so Walt's mom seemed like she wasn't ever totally into Michael. Like, it was always sort of, I'll see where this goes. And Michael just seemed to think right from the start, like, oh yeah, we're going to do this together and be a family. And I don't think she was ever really into it.
I don't think so either. And then...
So then Michael is like, forget that, right? And one of the themes we just see running through every part of Michael's life is just this idea of like, hey, that's my son. So he's at this stage, that's my son. No one is going to take him from me. Like, no other guy is going to raise him.
Yeah, because
that's my son.
Her boyfriend wants to adopt him.
So Michael is going to try to launch this lawsuit or take legal action, but he's just overmatched. Like, he doesn't have the money, so he basically does just resign himself to, okay, I'm not going to get custody.
Mm-hmm. And then he gets run over by a car.
Yeah, and the next thing that happens, so first, she's going to just, make a life with this other man, and, Michael's not really going to be that involved. But then she's going to move to Australia. So that's a whole different story, right? Because, if she's still... They were in New York, right?
But he was a baby when that happened.
When they moved?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Michael is, not going to accept
When he
this.
gets run over, he was just off the phone and he found out that she's
moving.
Someone. No, that she's seeing someone.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, then Brian is the guy. How do I know Brian but not the mom's name? Anyways, Brian and the mom. Let's just call her Sarah.
No, we'll call her the mom.
The mom. Okay, sure. And then we see that they're raising Walt, and Walt really doesn't get a lot of attention at home. He seems to be kind of ignored. And we kind of get the impression that Brian only adopted him because...
he wants to be with the mom.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both very, involved in their careers.
Very involved in their careers. And then it's very interesting because Walt is reading a book about these birds, and then all of a sudden, a bird hits the window, and it is the same bird that he was just reading about.
And he's angry at the time, right?
So Brian is this kid is weird.
Yeah, Brian is freaked out.
He's really freaked out. And then a week later, the mom dies.
Or finds out that she's terminally ill.
Yeah.
And she does die pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah.
So then that brings us to, the event shortly before the flight. because Brian thinks that Walt is weird and like really doesn't like him and is a bit freaked out by him, he doesn't want him. So even though he adopted him and should now be his father,
He doesn't want him.
yeah, he calls Michael and is like, "Hey, do you still want your son?" Pretty much.
And then Michael's like, "What?" Anyways, then in the airport.
But before we get to the airport, though, I think we should also mention a very important character in Lost, Vincent.
Oh yeah, Vincent.
And so
cute.
Who's Vincent?
Vincent was Brian's dog.
Yeah, actually Brian's dog.
But then Walt just got him. I don't know why he got him, but he did.
I think that Vincent was a little bit neglected too, right?
Yeah.
And kind of was a good friend to Walt.
Yeah, that's what Walt said when he gave Vincent to Shannon. When his mom died, no one wanted to listen to him, but Vincent would listen.
Yeah.
And it's really sweet. It's really sad. Because Walt doesn't really have a great childhood.
No.
Or a great life at all, really.
Well, and it's a little bit unfair because, you know, there's this idea that, like, oh, Michael hasn't been involved at all in his life, but, like, actually we learned that he was sending letters, drawing pictures, cards.
But the mom never showed those to Walt. So
which is,
Walt
like, pretty bad of her.
Walt thought that his dad never cared. So when Michael shows up and he's like, "Hey, we're bringing you back home," Walt is like, "What?
Yeah.
This can't be happening."
It's a difficult situation for both of them. They're essentially strangers. And, you know, Walt understandably has a chip on his shoulder. He's just lost his mom. He's being uprooted from the only life he's ever really known.
Well, no, he like moved around a lot, so he's just like.
Well, they were in Australia though the whole time.
No, they weren't.
Well, that's where they were. Anyways,
Yes,
that's where they were when she died, right? Because.
Anyways, so they're on the plane crash, and no, they're on the plane. It crashes, and Michael and Walt actually are pretty good in the first episodes. Like, there's no like injuries or like incidents until Michael, I guess, just finds this nice watch, puts it on, which is kind of weird because what does it matter what time it is?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it does. Never mind. Jen is like tweaking out because
as we discussed in our Jin and Sun episode, like, that is an extremely expensive watch.
Yeah, and it's like the only reason they were on the plane to deliver it.
He was supposed
and
to
Michael's
deliver
just wearing it, so he beats him up. But they think that Michael thinks it's some sort of like racial thing. That's just kind of. I don't really understand it, but I don't really want to, because why do we have to talk about racism?
But I think too, though, like, that's sort of a recognized racial tension between Korean people and African Americans.
Yeah.
So.
But then what happens? Oh yeah, so then, you know, Michael hates him, and then there's a lot of tension there, and also I want to mention that Sun is the only person that knows Sun can speak English is Michael at this time. Later, Kate finds out too, but he was the first one to figure it out.
And for a little while, it almost seems like they were considering
some
kind of like,
which is like
romance with Michael and Sun.
Because
remember,
abort.
Like, remember at that stage, like, Sun, you know, wants to leave Jin. That's what she was planning to do when they got to LA. Michael's kind of the only one she can talk to, and so I'm not sure if that was just, you know, it appeared that way, or it actually was the intention, and then they just decided to go in a different direction. But, like, Jin is very jealous of Michael and doesn't want, you know, Sun talking to him. So we learn about Michael, like, early on. He seems to have a lot of conflict in his relationships.
Yeah,
he's very aggressive.
Yeah.
Who else does he have conflict with?
John Locke. Because Walt's great on the island. He loves the island.
He's having the time of his life.
He feels like he belongs there, and just like John Locke, because he meets John Locke and he's like, he loves this guy. John Locke listens to him and like really wants to get to know him and doesn't just like, tell him what to do.
Yeah, he like teaches him things, and really, really invests in him and takes an interest in him, which should be great, because this is what Walt has been missing his entire life. So, you know, good for John. But what does Michael think of it?
Michael doesn't like it. Michael is like, well, that's my son.
Again, we see the recurring theme.
And then, I don't really know what I'm doing here. Michael pretty much just forbids Walt from talking to Locke, but that doesn't last very long, does it?
It's really a tough situation for Locke. He didn't mean to like come between them or cause problems. He really was just trying to connect with Walt. And probably because Locke was alone so much in his own childhood and didn't have a lot of support, recognized that in Walt and just wanted to help, you know. But then, yeah, he asked to kind of tell Walt, look, I'm really sorry, but like, I don't think we can spend all this time together anymore because of your dad. So.
Yeah. And then there's the raft.
Yeah.
Michael starts building this raft with Sawyer and Jin.
Yeah, so him and Jin, they do kind of make amends to a degree.
Yeah. But then the raft gets burned.
Well,
everybody thinks that it's Jin's fault because he can't speak English and his hands are all burned. But then we realize Sun speaks English for the first time and Jin is really mad. But she says it's not him. He burnt his hands trying to put it out. And then we find out that it was Walt who burnt the raft. And then Michael's like, why did you do this? And Walt's like, oh, I don't want to leave the island. I love it here. And then they just leave anyways, don't they?
Yeah, so this is sort of how season 1 concludes.
They leave
And so it's Michael, Walt, Jin, and Sawyer.
Yes, and they leave the island, and it's like, yay!
And Vincent, tries to follow them at first.
Vincent is in the, Shannon house.
Yeah, and so
Which
Walt
we will get back to.
Yeah, so Walt entrusts Vincent to Shannon. So before we get into the whole raft storyline, I just kind of want to address, Michael, up until the raft, he's already not that likable of a character, right? Because, like we talked about, he seems to be in conflict with everybody. He's always angry. But then things really just nosedive for Michael as a character, as far as I'm concerned, once he sets foot on the raft.
Oh, boy.
And unfortunately, what happens is they're out on the water.
Middle of the night.
They've got some sort of radar that I guess they took from the plane, right? And they see a boat or something. And so then it's the decision of okay, what is that? Is it a boat or the people? They only have a few flares, right?
They only have one.
One. So it's kind of do or die. Do we use our flare? But then slowly, the boat is kind of getting further away. It's going to be, out of kind of the scope of the radar. So they decide to do it, and then, we see this boat coming closer and closer, and the music swells, and we think, oh wow,
it's going to be so great.
They're going to be rescued.
Nope.
What happens?
Tom. Sorry, we just watched the episode where Tom dies, and I love him so much.
No.
But
Annie, we're not supposed to love Tom, especially right now, okay? So let's try to, go back to season 1, and what happens?
Tom takes Walt.
And he seems, kind of really scary. Disheveled, and this is all part of the others'
Who said that
plan.
that's such a bad thing for Walt? I mean, Walt would probably love it with the others.
But it's
true.
a real, twist, because... they think, oh, man, you rescued us. And then he kind of says, yeah, only, we're going to have to take the boy. And it's sort of what? What is happening?
So
now,
they do.
They're not being rescued. They're just going to kidnap Walt.
And they do take the boy. And then Michael continues. I'm pretty sure just, the score for season 2 is just, Michael screaming Walt.
And it's so annoying. And he just keeps calling for Walt.
Which I'd like to mention, I watched an interview with the actor of Walt, and you couldn't even hear what anybody on the stage was saying, because the whole time it was just, Walt, that's my son.
Yeah.
So.
And
Which I like.
It's kind of sad for the actor because, I mean, he was probably just told, like, keep yelling Walt over and over again. You know, it wasn't necessarily his artistic choice, and yet it really alienates, I feel, everybody from Michael because it's just so annoying, and we're all kind of like, oh, please shut up. Like, please,
Well, like,
stop.
Danielle doesn't scream Alex all the time.
Yeah.
Claire doesn't scream Aaron all the time.
And I think it's just meant to show that Michael just becomes unhinged. And, you know, then it sort of explains trying to sort of explain his behavior later. But, like, I feel for myself, that's kind of when I turn on Michael a little bit.
Then they get captured by the others, but it's not really the others, it's the tailies.
So what happens is it's just an awful night because Walt is taken. They set fire to the raft, right? The others. Sawyer gets shot, I think.
Yeah, Sawyer does get shot. And then, like, Sawyer and Michael are, like, arguing.
Yeah.
And it's,
Michael's just being impossible. When they come back to shore, so Jin actually, like, ends up in the water. They come back to shore, and, you know, we don't have to get into that whole storyline. It appears it's
not very long.
It appears that they've been captured by the others, but it turns out they're actually a new group of survivors.
Which is interesting that that the tailies would pretend to be the others. I still don't really understand why they did that.
Well, I don't know that they're pretending to be the others. I think
they've got, like, those weird, like, bats with the spikes on it.
It's because of what happened with Goodwin. Like, that Goodwin pretended to be a survivor.
Goodwin. In my opinion, Goodwin had the worst death.
Yeah, but like, anyway, we'll get more into that on the Tailies episode.
I'm just like, it's always on my mind. Others.
Yep, that's for sure.
Others.
If Annie has a chance to talk about the others, she'll take it.
it.
But sadly, this is the Michael and Walt episode. So Tom, we learn later it's Tom, takes Walt. Eventually, you know, Michael and everybody find their way back to the main beach. But like we were saying, it turns out there's another group of survivors we didn't know about that were on the tail section of the plane. So remember that the plane breaks in the air, right? Mm-hmm. So the tailies, as they're called, actually kind of landed in a different part of the island. And so eventually they all kind of end up back on the main beach. And then Michael decides he's going to go off and try to find Walt. And
which
now
is like
we're into season 2.
Boring. Anyways, down in the hatch where, you know, things are going on.
Yeah, this is the time, the glorious time, when Henry Gale, or a man claiming to be Henry Gale.
Whoa, it's Henry Gale.
That's accurate. That is an accurate statement. A man claiming to be Henry Gale.
It's Henry Gale.
Is being held in the hatch because.
Hey! Shut up. This would be a perfect time.
As we're talking about Henry Gale.
Speaking of Henry Gale.
We'll kind of pause for our shout-out of the week.
Yeah. Yesterday, we went to this play, which my little cousin was in. Her niece.
Her name is Shelby.
And she was great. And it was a performance of The Wizard of Oz, which is one of my favorite movies. And
it was really well done.
It was so cute. All the little kids.
And
I'm trying to find her name to show you guys. Or maybe I shouldn't because...
Yeah, we probably shouldn't because that's lots of people's names there. Right. But it's put on by Saskatchewan Express.
So that's our shout out.
Excellent work. Great. Like really, really well done. And we enjoyed it. And it ties in very nicely.
And yes. And yeah.
And I think as we mentioned in a previous episode where we talked about the ruby slippers... there are a lot of references to The Wizard of Oz
in
Lost and actually...
Such as episodes.
Yeah, like before this podcast today, we actually watched a little bit of the 3-parter.
There's no place like home. Also, you know what I'm gonna do. The man behind the curtain. It's just like Shawna said, I'm gonna mention it whenever I can. And... yeah.
Well, I think it's really brilliant that,
it is.
You know, he goes by this name of Henry Gale, who is a character in The Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. It's Dorothy Gale. Her uncle is Henry Gale. You know, and claims that he was traveling the world in a balloon, which is how the wizard is actually going to try to get back
Oz.
got to Oz and was going to try to get back to Kansas. So and then later we have an episode called The Man Behind the Curtain, which
is the best episode.
And it's just another great reference. So, yes, shout out to that.
Shout out to The Man Behind the Curtain.
But when Michael comes back from his search for Walt, that's what's kind of going on.
So
Henry Gale is in the hatch.
Is in the hatch.
By this time, the Tailies, so Ana Lucia, Libby, Echo, Bernard, have joined, kind of the beach and are part of the community.
The party in the beach.
And at this time, they're still trying to figure out, do they believe Henry Gale? Rousseau, right from the start, is like, he's a liar. He's one of them. Right off the bat.
She's wrong.
She's absolutely right.
No, she's not.
She's just right from the first
Henry
minute.
Gale.
And way to go, Rousseau. Shoots him with an arrow
the
through
poor
the
guy.
shoulder.
Oh.
And Saeed is also convinced that he's lying and that he's one of them. Ana Lucia, who is one of the Tailies, she's a former police officer. She interrogates him much more gently than Saeed does, and I think she's kind of not sure. So she persuades Henry Gale to draw a map to where supposedly this balloon is.
Look what I've done.
You've had to hijack the podcast. We're talking about Ben. But this is kind of important background for what happens with Michael. And so anyways, they take, so Ana Lucia, Charlie, Saeed take this map. They actually find the balloon. It is right where he said it would be. Mm-hmm. There is a grave that supposedly Henry Gale buried his wife. So far his story checks out, but they take that, just doing their due diligence, they take the extra step and actually look into the grave. And they find the real Henry Gale and his ID and everything. And it's a different person altogether. So this is what's happening right at the time when Michael makes his reappearance. And what does Michael do?
So he decides, I guess that the others kind of made a deal with him that he's going to...
And we don't know this.
Rightly free Henry Gale. And what?
That's his assignment. Mm-hmm. He has to go get Henry Gale out of there. That's all they tell him, though. They just say, get Henry Gale out of there and bring back...
because the others are good. The others don't kill when they don't need to.
I feel so sorry for, anyone watching this podcast that, isn't really that familiar with the show, because they're just getting such mixed messages about, who's good and who's bad. Anyway...
But everybody else is wrong.
They send Michael with a list of people that he is supposed to bring back. And who was on that list?
Pretty much the Oceanic Six. So it's the candidates. It's Sawyer, Jack, Kate. Hurley was only there so that he could go back and tell everybody else.
Was his name on the list?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sawyer was there too. No.
Maybe, because Saeed doesn't go,
so.
He goes with them initially. But anyways, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, before this happened, he was going to go do what any, good person would do. And he was going to go free Henry Gale. But then, he just has to mess it up by killing poor Libby and Ana Lucia, who I don't really care about. But
yeah, so... Ana Lucia is kind of down in the hatch,
she's kind of guarding.
Keeping guard.
Yeah.
But Libby was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And this is very sad because, her and Hurley are going to go on their first date. Hurley forgot to bring blankets and, stuff for the picnic. So that's all Libby's doing down in the hatch. She's literally just there to grab a few blankets. But unfortunately, this is the very moment that Michael is going to free Henry Gale. Because he's got to do it when, Jack and them aren't there, right? Because he's supposed to bring them back. So he's, got to convince them that he's still good and on their side.
So what does he do? He decides to kill 2 innocent women.
Yeah, so he kills Ana Lucia and Libby, lets Henry Gale go, and then blames it on Henry Gale.
Yeah,
says
poor
that
Henry
he
Gale.
shot them.
He didn't do anything.
Well, and to make it more convincing, Michael also shoots himself, just a minor injury, so that they believe...
And I can't believe he gets away with it.
And so then Michael's plan is, okay, so now this has happened and I know where Walt is and you all have to come with me to help me get Walt back. And are people convinced?
I think that some people are. Was it Saeed who was like, this seems suspicious?
Saeed knows right off the bat that, like, Michael is lying. Something's not right. And I think, too, like, Jack, because he's a bad actor. Like, I don't mean, like, the actual actor playing Michael, but just in this situation, Michael is very unconvincing. He is so...
desperate.
Just desperate and, like, aggravated and on edge that it's kind of like, why is it so important that these people come with you? Like, something is up here. But Saeed is like, you know what? Let's just go along with it. Like, we know something's going on, but let's follow it through and see what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get to kind of what happens when they get there, we should maybe talk a little bit more about Walt in terms of, like, why do the others want Walt?
He's special.
What is special about Walt?
Well,
he told us about the birds, but there's another incident.
He also, like, summoned a polar bear. And then, oh yeah, the Shannon incident.
Okay, but let's talk about the polar bear first. He's reading a comic about, which this polar bear, it's like a Spanish comic.
It's actually Hurley's comic.
And there's a polar bear in the comic book. And then next thing you know, we see a polar bear on the island.
And that's why we got Dan, because he's, like, so...
Yeah, that's right. And the polar bear thing is explained later on, but at the time, we are to believe, and it is true.
Okay, here's what I think. So we know that the polar bears are there because of the Dharma Initiative. But what I think is that, like, he doesn't create it, but he can kind of summon
He can make things appear.
But, like, I think it was already there. He just kind of made it. Like, it was already on the island.
Right.
He just
drew it. Like, same as the birds, right? He drew the birds.
Because it's not like he just made it appear out of thin air.
No. But I think, like, how they explained it on the Getting Lost documentary is that he's psychic. He's got psychic abilities. So, of course, the others are going to be like, whoa, like, this is what we've been waiting for. They love having kids.
They do love having special kids,
especially, like, someone who's special.
Yes. Yeah, which we'll talk about because there's some parallels and some backstories.
Well, and just think of how, useful Walt could
may
be.
or may not be, like, including pirate Richard Alpert. But,
yeah, so that's why they want Walt.
Okay. I am gonna... You should just stop me right now, because if you get me started on that episode, I'm never gonna finish.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get you started on it.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So...
Okay, I also want to talk about another, like, little incident of Walt's. So we know that Shannon has Walt. No, Vincent. Sorry. And it's really creepy. I just watched it with Donna.
It's really scary.
He's like still trying to figure it out, and it's not really... This is... I'll tell you my take on it. But, like, he kind of appears to Shannon, and he's all, like, soaking wet, and he is speaking backwards.
Yeah, it seems to be backwards or something.
And he's trying to warn Shannon about something, or tell Shannon something. This is what I think. I think he can appear, but, like, he doesn't know how to kind of harness that power yet.
And he's not really there, right? He's just kind of appearing to them.
It's kind of like a... I don't know.
But maybe similar to the way that Emily appears to Ben.
Yeah, that's what I also think. But once again...
Yeah, we don't want to get Annie started.
Yeah.
And then he also appears another time.
Yes. After, Ben fairly shoots... No, don't. After Ben, like... You understand where he's coming from. He shoots John Locke in the best episode ever. And then, whoa, hey, what are you doing?
Annie's a very unreliable narrator. I don't know why I've assigned her this role in the podcast.
Maybe it's because you always interrupt me, and so you're just going to let me...
Poor John Locke gets shot.
Poor Ben Linus has no choice but to shoot John Locke. And then... When he's in the, grave, not a big deal.
Filled with other people Ben has killed.
No, he only killed one person, and that was fair. Well, I love you, Roger, but... Okay, like, stop getting me started. Anyways.
Walt appears.
Walt appears, but he's, like, all tall and older, so they're trying to make it, like, oh, like, first it was he's talking backwards, now he doesn't know, like, what size to come in. No, like, it's just a growing actor. Like, calm
This
down,
is,
guys.
unfortunately for the show, they maybe just didn't anticipate or think it through. But obviously, you know, he's a kid, he's growing. And it's unfortunate the way that time passes on the show. And
Because
you know,
it's very slow.
it's passing so slowly. So like 1 year in terms of like a season of like, or, you know, of the show.
It's probably just like
which
a couple
takes,
weeks.
Yeah, which takes like a whole year to play out as we're watching it, is really only representing maybe a month or a few weeks. And I don't really know why they made that choice. Like,
I like it.
Why did time have to? Because it does create huge problems for Walt, like particularly. Not so much for Aaron, because they can just have a lot of different babies and no one's really going to notice. But obviously with Walt, you're going to notice that he's going through a growth spurt, and like he's going to change over, because it's pretty much, I don't know, 3 years, I guess, maybe even 4 years of like the show that pass in what, 80 days or something. So he's going to look different in those 4 years. So that's kind of why I think we see less and less of Walt. And when we do see Walt, it's kind of like at a weird angle, or like we only see part of his face, just to sort of, you know, continue this illusion that he's still the same age.
But
which would have been what?
of-
Like, how old was he?
Okay, so he's 10 when they first
Okay.
crashed.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, like I guess the actor is actually
and
older,
then
but
I'd also like to mention that John Locke sees him off island. Sorry. And he's supposed to be like the oldest they could possibly make him is 13, but he is not 13 now. He's like 16.
well, this is where the flash forwards are good for Walt, because
Flash. Yeah, but it's only 3 years in advance.
yeah, 3 years.
So he
But
would only be
at least
13.
some time has passed now, right? So he can look
But
a bit
he
older,
doesn't.
and it
But
makes sense.
you can't grow that fast. Trust me, I know.
So
I'm
that's
sorry.
that's kind
I'm
of
sorry,
why,
actor, but like, you're not really convincing as a 13-year-old.
it's not his fault that he grew, Annie. Like, and really, when you think about it, it's too bad for this kid, because he's alone there. Like in this cast, he's the only child. I wonder.
Come on, being the only child on set would be the best.
Maybe, but I think in other ways it would be kind of lonely. So Michael completes his mission. He brings who he was supposed to bring, and this is the big reveal that we see Henry Gale again, and we learn not only is he an other,
He's the
he's
best
like,
one.
He's the other, like he's the head of the others. He's the man in charge. He is Benjamin Linus.
Yeah.
So, and this
I
was
think we
all
should,
his brainwave.
On the Benjamin Linus episode, like, have that song as the theme song.
Okay.
It's great. It's a great song.
Annie cannot wait until we
I
do
am
this
like
podcast.
just
It's
counting
just so,
down
like,
the days.
So painful for her to have to do these
It
other
is,
characters,
No
because
one
like
cares
no one-
about these
Yeah.
characters.
Well, way to sell the podcast. That's good. But getting back
but
to
life
Michael.
will just be like not even worth living for once we finish the Ben one.
No, because then there's still all your beloved others. And Dharma.
Oh, yeah, my
little people.
others.
So, but for now,
I have some like. It's really interesting how my favorites kind of.
contradict
Yeah,
each other.
but-
Yeah,
You know.
but that's okay. She's a complicated girl.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, to wrap this part up, Michael betrays everyone
Mm-hmm.
and gets to leave the island with Walt. And then we don't see Michael for a long time. And we're thinking at this point, oh, I guess that's it. You know, he's probably off the show. And around this time was actually when I went to the Calgary Comic-Con.
Yeah, mention
Annie's
that.
dad. And Michael was there. And I didn't meet him, but I did see him pretty up close, because
He was eating probably a chicken salad sandwich.
well, he was behind. So how these work is like, you can line up for autographs and selfies with the actor. I was on the other, just across the aisle, meeting the cast of Beverly Hills 90210, like, of course. But I mean, it would have been nice to meet Michael. And then at that same Comic-Con, there was actually 2 lost people there, Michael and Jacob. And I won't spoil it. I'll save it for the Jacob episode, but something very special happened. Anyways, that's
What about me?
Yeah, what about you?
Okay. No, Dad, come here. Look what you've done.
It's not Daniel's fault.
Poor baby.
So at this point, we think that Michael and Walt are no longer on the show. We're not going to see them again.
We're wrong.
We do see Michael again, and his name is Kevin
Johnson.
And so tell us a little bit about that.
Mm.
If you think you can stay
He's
on track.
probably like what I would do. I mean, like, he's working for Ben, which is probably like the best job ever.
How does that come about, though?
Okay, so he's like off island, and obviously Walt does not want to see him.
Yeah, so how did it work out off island for Michael?
So Michael decides to tell his son that he killed these 2 innocent women
And betrayed his friends.
and betrayed everyone.
Because they don't know what happened to,
Ow.
like, Jack and Sawyer and Kate. Like, as far as Michael knows, maybe they got hurt,
Mm-hmm.
So Walt wants nothing to do with him, is actually living with Michael's mother. So Walt's, like, Michael doesn't even, for all this, and that was the other annoying thing.
No, he's not living with his mother. He's living with his grandmother.
Yeah, I mean Michael's mother.
Oh, my bad.
And, the other annoying thing about Michael, it's not just that he's screaming Walt, but then when his betrayal is revealed, he just keeps saying the same thing over and over again. They took my son. And again, he just, like, keeps repeating it as if that justifies his actions. And obviously it doesn't.
Saying the same thing over and over and over again is not gonna, like, make anybody change their mind.
Remember that.
Whoa, hey, wait.
Well, it's true. Just remember that. That's
What do
all
you
I'm
mean
saying.
by that?
Just keep that in mind. So it's not going well for Michael. Michael actually wants to end his life.
Mm-hmm. He's actually, like, he bought a gun. He's gonna... No, first he, like, tries
to crash.
And, like, we watched that episode with my dad, and he's, like, playing this song in the car, and then, like, after that, my dad...
And it's significant because...
Yes, because it's Cass Elliot. But then, like, my dad just, like, keeps on playing the song. I guess he just genuinely likes it, but it's just... I only see that scene in my mind. And it's like, I'm driving in the car with my dad listening to this song, and it's like...
It's disturbing.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
But
and then he finds, like, everything he does, it doesn't work. He can't seem to kill himself. And so who explains to Michael why this is?
Tom!
Tom, the same Tom that took his son, actually finds Michael, and we learn something very interesting about Michael and about Tom.
Okay, so what's interesting about Michael? Nothing.
Well, just that the island isn't finished with him. So that's the explanation is to why, like, the island. And so then we start to understand the island differently. And we're still not sure if, like, the island means Jacob or, like, the island is itself kind of a force. But either way, the island's not done with Michael. He's got more to do. And so then, yes, as Annie said, he gets recruited to work for Ben.
Hey, but we haven't mentioned, like, maybe the most important thing of all.
Which is?
That Tom is gay.
Yeah. It's, like, so weird because, like, we see Tom. I mean, the first time we see Tom, he's all, like, disheveled and, the others kind of pretending to be these, like, dirty kind of savages or whatever, uncivilized people. But then we see, like, Tom just living it up in a hotel room.
That, I might add, sort of looks like your apartment.
And we meet someone else.
Arturo. We love Arturo.
Tom's romantic
It's
interest.
kind of like, oh, poor Tommy.
Yeah. So we
I don't think I'm gonna get over it.
Just watched the episode. I couldn't remember what happened to Tom, but then we watched it, and Sawyer actually kills Tom, and he says that's for taking the boy. So, yeah. So, what is Michael's assignment on the freighter?
To blow it up.
Yeah.
Which he should have done.
And to report back to Ben, because the freighter has been really, it's all the plot of Charles Widmore. He's assembled a group of people, and their mission is to find Ben Linus and to bring him to Widmore.
I just wish he had, like, done it, because he was suicidal anyways. So, like, what's the big deal? He blows up the boat, and then, but then Dan would die.
Yeah, and this is, again, another confusing plot point. So, how it ends up is, and I think we talked about this in another episode, the freighters...
started the yawning.
Yeah, well, we're already at 40 minutes, so... the freighter is rigged with C4, like everything else. Ben, in killing Kimi, has now activated this sort of countdown. The only way that they can slow it down is to freeze the bomb, so they're spraying.
Anyways, they do that, then they run out of it, and then
Michael stays behind, and tries to let Jin leave. And so this is what I'm getting at, is that now he's run out of the liquid nitrogen, it's going to explode, and suddenly there's Christian Shepherd, and he says, "You can go now, Michael." And
so he does.
It's confusing though, because like at that time we're thinking, oh, Christian Shepherd is like good, and maybe representing Jacob, but then we later learn he's the Man in Black. So it is a bit confusing, like why.
I don't think the Man in Black is really that bad.
Why he's
and
involved.
If anyone, you should agree with that.
Well, we'll get to that in another episode too. So does Michael redeem himself?
Nope.
Apparently not. Like the show would agree, because then we learn something about the Whispers. So a recurring question, I guess, on the show is like, at certain points, a character will find themselves usually sort of alone in the jungle, and there's all these whispers, and it's really scary.
It's not that scary.
I find it scary.
You do?
A little bit, yeah.
Huh.
So then how is Michael now connected with the Whispers?
He is one. He is a whisper.
Yeah, that's his fate.
Womp womp.
And so who are the people whispering?
People who died on the island who aren't worthy of being redeemed and going to the...
Yeah, it seems like, not to go on about the purgatory, because, like, that's so confusing for people, I guess. But it does seem like some people are in some kind of limbo state on the island, and you hear them whispering, and they haven't really been set free.
Well, in the first and second season, we're supposed to think that those are the others.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But it's not. It's just really annoying people who died. Probably Arts is one. Actually, why is he in the sideways and Michael is?
Yeah, like, I don't know if it's just the actor wasn't available or they just didn't want to make time for him, but he's not in the sideways, and either is Walt. So we don't see Michael in the church after, which would kind of suggest, he didn't get a chance to redeem himself, really, because that's what the sideways is all about, is kind of making things right and getting to the point where they're ready to sort of cross over into the afterlife. We don't see either of them in the sideways. We do see Walt in a few flash forwards, which works because, like we talked about, a few years have passed, so he's allowed to age. But Walt visits Hurley, John visits Walt, and then we see Walt again in the New Man in Charge kind of little, which we talked about in the Hurley episode.
And so Hurley kind of recruits
Walt to be maybe the next
but
guardian.
I don't really like the idea of him like going around with Hurley and Ben, because he's probably like really annoying. And he's probably, I'm just saying, but if he's anything like his dad.
But even off island, Walt is still connected to the island, which is really special. He has the same kind of special connection to the island that John Locke does, and I think that's part of their bond. Because, Walt is the one that appears to John and actually tells him that the freighter, everyone there is, like, that's why John...
And he was right!
And he was right, and, like, that's why John tries to, stop it, because Walt told him that. And then also, when John comes to visit Walt, Walt says, "I've been having dreams about you." So interesting that he has this psychic connection to John Locke, but appears to not know that his father is dead, right? Like,
yeah.
Thinks that he's still on the island, and, is hoping to come home, but he's not aware of that. So I think that we are just about ready for the hot take.
The hot take.
What is your hot take this
I
week?
actually changed it from what I...
What? Just during the course of the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
Michael is a terrible dad, and he ruined Walt's life. And so the hot take is, Walt deserves an apology from Michael.
Yeah.
Walt said he didn't want to go on the raft, but still he somehow ended up going on the raft, got kidnapped, and then got taken away to New York, which he never wanted. He never wanted to go to New York. Then he has to grow up with his grandma.
Yeah.
And, like, has a terrible, terrible childhood.
And why in the
his
world...
dad goes back and dies.
And why in the world would Michael put that on a boy?
Mm-hmm.
This terrible burden of, like, look at what I did to get you off the island.
Because
I mean,
he sucks.
even Tom is like, really? Like, you told him, didn't you?
What do you mean even Tom?
Like, why would you do that? You know, and because obviously not only is Walt never going to be able to look at his dad the same, but like he's going to carry that guilt too. That like, because that was Michael's big justification.
And like,
they took
as
my son.
the grandma says, he wakes up in the night screaming because of like all the trauma that he went through just because of the raft, which he never wanted to go on in the first place.
I know, but I mean, you can understand why Michael thought it would be in Walt's best interest to get off the island.
But he told his dad that he didn't want to go, and
I know, but
Michael was like, "Don't worry, we don't have to go if you don't want to." But then they still ended up going.
But by that point, like, we're learning more about the others. The two Taylor children. No, they weren't.
I would be one of those Taylor children.
Well, actually, I guess they weren't really. Or yeah, they were Taylors, right?
Yes, they
Yeah,
were.
they were Taylors, and so they were kidnapped by the others.
No.
Yeah, they were. They were taken while they were sleeping on the beach.
But the lady went too.
Yeah, but that was after the stewardess. Yeah, but like one of the first nights.
I also love those kids like other fashion. They got like the cool hair stuff. Actually, I think she has braids just like me.
I think she does. But the point is that the island is a dangerous place, and they don't know what they're dealing with the others. You know, they eventually learn like Rousseau's baby was taken as well. Although, I mean, like by the same token, no one's suggesting Aaron go on the raft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I think you're right. Michael's not a good dad. He didn't have really a chance though. Like he didn't have a lot of experience, but he's got a lot of qualities that I think would make it.
He could have been like John Locke on the island.
But he wasn't. And that's the problem. Like, that's what I'm saying. That because Michael is so hot-tempered and impulsive and aggressive, like maybe he's not going to ever be the greatest dad. Because
I never thought of it.
Arguably, like, John Locke is a better dad to Walt than Michael was. So, that's a good hot take.
I know, I'm pretty great. Also, other hot take, justice for Tom. But we'll talk about that one later.
Well, and I think we're also talking about how, we've addressed it, but that Michael's just not a very likable character, and I think...
What a great way to end the podcast.
Yeah, I know. But, like, obviously, like, he's not even close to the most flawed character as far as the bad things he's done. But part of why, like, we forgive Sawyer, Kate, like, whoever you want to say... is because we like them, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, the only thing Michael can elicit, for me anyway, is maybe a little bit of sympathy, you know, for the whole situation.
I know, but, like, Michael
but he's never really,
and Saeed are, like, equal on the spectrum of hatred.
Whoa. But if you think about someone like Sawyer, he starts off as kind of a bad guy, but then we, learn, he's, like, got so much... charisma, and he's funny, and he's actually, cares about people, and so then it's kind of balances out some of the...
But you know what? We don't need to worry about Michael, because we know Walt has a great, and he actually ends up being the Jacob, which I think is probably in the best interest of the show.
And I think that Walt would be in a good position to maybe help the people who are the whispers, including Michael, because he does have this sort of psychic ability that maybe he could do things that, even Jacob could never do. So
yeah.
So a happy ending for Walt. In some ways, like an okay ending for Michael, because he was more than happy to give his life to do something good, right? He was like trying to end his life anyway, just in complete futility. But to actually have it mean something, I think, he was willing to do that.
Yeah.
So that concludes another episode of A Lost Cause.
And soon it will be great. Really,
yep,
so
we're
soon.
moving closer and closer to the end of season 1.
Yeah, and then we'll do the season 1 podcast with my little brother, because we just finished season 1.
And then we're going to have season 2 of this podcast as we talk about season 2 and all the characters we meet.
Yeah. Yay!
So, namaste.
And see you in another life.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.